The U.S.-Mexico border wall. How to do it right, by turning a debt into massive profit. The states directly involved are California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. The Rio Grande defines the eastern portion of the border, marking the southern edge of Texas. This river is a valuable resource that cannot be walled off from U.S. farmers and ranchers. The western stretch passes through mostly dry, rocky ground. The total length of the border is roughly 2,000 miles, to which Americans have already spent $17 billion to build a border fence so ill-conceived the actual expenditure is over 3 times that amount. An important part of the solution to the border wall is water. These are the rivers adding to the east border and crossing the west. El Paso separates these two regions. The only place a physical wall makes sense is in the populated areas, where cities and towns are built right up against the border on both sides. However, a very valuable resource is being ignored: dirt. Instead of building a wall, dig a trench. Like terrace farming, the border can be dug up to create steps from the Pacific to the highest point along the border just west of El Paso. These light blue dots mark the 100-foot rise locations. Red dots mark the terrace drop locations along the eastern slope to reach the Gulf of Mexico. Together they form 94 potential waterfalls. The stretch of land between these 100-foot drops is also dug out to make long trench reservoirs. The dirt from the excavations can be distributed via U.S. highways, but more efficiently by using and extending the existing railroad system. There are a series of dams for power generation and water diversion in El Paso. However, the major hydroelectric power plants are along the Rio Grande, the Amistad Dam near Del Rio, and the Earth Embankment Falcon Dam south of Laredo. The many smaller dams created in the terracing process do not have large reservoirs to produce stable, sustained power output that can go into the electrical grid directly. Instead, they will power massive pumps to reload the Amistad and Falcon dams, similar to what is done at the Moses and Beck dams at Niagara Falls. Water arrives at the dams through diversion tunnels and rejoins the Niagara River after dropping through the turbines. During periods of low demand, power from the dams is used to pump water up into holding reservoirs that act like energy capacitors. When demand is high, the water flows back through smaller electric generators and then over the main dams. The many small terrace dams will generate electricity to transport the outflow from the Amistad and Falcon dams back up into their respective reservoirs. The massive water reservoirs of the primary hydroelectric power plants are recharged and can handle periods of surplus water. Also, there is no structural impact to the existing power grid or international treaties for the water and power distribution already negotiated for these two dams owned and operated by the International Boundary and Water Commission. The west side excavates 1.3 billion cubic yards, nearly 4 billion on the east, for over 5 billion total cubic yards of earth priced at $5 to $30 per yard. The private sector dirt merchants inherit the burden of surveying the border, managing the excavation to produce the mini dams, and processing the product, refinement, sorting, and grading, research, advertising, and sales, storage, and delivery. Their biggest burden will be legal hurdles and accidents fueling the insurance industry, and of course, local, state, and federal government fees, permitting, and regulations. The federal government will directly skim $10 billion from the excavation plus a large portion of any minerals discovered, because the private companies will aggressively bid on the border project to get this gold mine with a conservative payout of $100 billion. The people get much-needed jobs, lasting a couple decades on the border, that can be applied elsewhere in the states, but that's another video. Government at all levels benefits by taxing this financial tsunami. But that's just the dirt. The electrical output from the Falcon and Amistad dams is nearly tripled by the border terrace dams that output 6 megawatts each. The west side power generation translates into $80 million. The electrical power generated on the east side is $100 million annually. However, water flow on the west, aided by diversion, will realistically just fill the reservoirs and not be useful for power generation. Nobody will mind digging up this inhospitable terrain, even on the east side. The border mini-dams represent another resource. 3,000 surface acres of water on the west. The local fishing industry will bid for the right to use this resource to produce 5.5 million pounds of fish, generating $7 million in profits annually. On the east side, 8,500 surface acres of water can be leased, producing 17 million pounds of fish each year, which translates into $21 million in profits. Canal and deep water transport protect the resource, but also need to accommodate animal life with gentler slopes to the waterways for easy crossing and escape, unlike this one. One profitable market remains: tourism. Underneath the American-style border walls that are built in the inhabited areas are restaurants and souvenir shops. It is easy to imagine a yearly running of the walls border event in each local area. Debt management is all about converting losses into gains. Tourism brings tens of thousands of dollars to each mini-wall area. The fishing industry provides millions of pounds of food and millions in profits. Hydroelectric power generates tens of millions of dollars. Each of these are annual benefits. In the short term, ranging out to 20 years, the dirt merchants pump billions of dollars into the economy. All of these industries create much-needed jobs. Or we can do business as usual and just throw money at it, with no real plan or effectiveness. Raiding the public treasury is easy and only requires increasing taxes, relabeled as border revenue enhancers. We've already paid over $1 million per mile for border fencing. Does this look like $1 million fence to you?